All right, let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here. Here. Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. Everybody signed up for public comment this evening? Yep. Let's move on to consent agenda. We have the 7/1/24 commission meeting minutes, 7/8/24 joint commission meeting minutes, and appropriation ordinances 2024-14, 2024-14A, and 2024-P14. Any comments, questions on those this meeting?
Motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C.
A motion by Commissioner Showalter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Myers. Any further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard.
Yes.
Redmond. Myers.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, the presentations or proclamations, ordinances and resolutions. We want to take care of that here or further on down?
Further on down.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to formal actions. We have an IFB for 122 West 14th Street. Zach, come on up.
I left a copy of this all on your tables because we just got the bids today. So we got 3 of them. The first one was for $9,850. Second one was for $8,000, and the third one was for $5,000 from S&M.
Okay. Have we had any more contact from the owner of the property at this point?
Not since the last commission meeting when they said they would be done by the 20th, but there has still been no movement. Drew contacted Hills, and they also said they have had no contact with them as to schedule when a truck should be there to help them switch out dumpsters. So,
Okay. Anybody have any questions, comments regarding this bid?
I think it's time to move forward with it. Yes. I would make a motion that we award IFB 24-701 to Drew Miller of S&M Repair in the amount of $5,000.
Have a motion by Commissioner Showalter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Howard. Any further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Redmond. Showalter.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, we'll move on to discussion items, starting with follow-up from our previous joint commission meeting. Ken?
At the joint meeting last week, there was discussion about the ownership of the Willock building, which is the building right across the parking lot. The county was asking whether there'd be a possibility of regarding the ownership of the building. Included in your packets the original building agreement that was approved in 2012, and then also the merger, the interlocal cooperation agreement from the merger of the fire departments. That was effective July 1st of 2021. Wasn't completely completed until the beginning of 22. As far as Chief James was still a city employee until the beginning of 22.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts regarding that meeting?
Well, I would say that, when we first had discussions about that last year, I was probably in the boat of, I really didn't care who owned it. I was in favor, honestly, if we wanted to go ahead and turn that over to the county and let them take care of it. I had no issues with that. But, as I think as time has gone on and listening to some of the reasonings that you brought up, Mr. Mayor, I feel like I think it would be a good decision for us to remain as it is. I would imagine that there is nothing that anybody sitting in these chairs is ever going to do to try to disrupt the agreement that we have with the fire department. We want to continue to allow them to rent, be there rent free. There's no other use for that building that we have. We want them to be there. We're not going to change it, but it brings up a good point that if, for some reason the fire department ever wanted to leave on their own volition, if we don't have ownership of that building, then we lose the money that we could get potentially from a sale or whatever else we want to do with that building. So I think it's in our best interest to remain where we're at. That's my 2 cents.
Just a thought here, could we go back and amend the contract so it's more than 30 years? Just to kind of satisfy them a little bit more. And then in the contract, it doesn't say that there has to be a meeting room in there. It's their building. They can do whatever they want to on the inside of it. So they don't have to have a meeting room. They can change that and do whatever they want to. So it doesn't matter either way to me, but at this point.
Did they talk about last time with it being longer, wanting a longer lease?
I think there was some mention of it.
Okay.
I mean, the lease is for 30 years, but it also pretty much says it will just roll over to 2 additional 30 years
Okay, right.
forever if that's what everybody wants.
Okay.
There's not really an end date to the lease. But again, the current way it is currently, there's still almost 20 years on the current term of the lease. So 20 years is a long time.
To me, the only thing that is kind of a non-negotiable is as long as the building remains named the same. If they don't want a meeting room in there, I don't care. However they want to arrange the building and set it up is fine with me. They're doing good work over there for service that benefits us all. Whatever they want to do.
I know some community members have brought it to my attention that they don't want to lose a meeting room, but then when you ask them, it wasn't even used that much in the first place. But I agree that we need to keep it with us in the city.
In the contract, it doesn't say that there has to be a meeting room.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever they want to with that.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping the name on the building, that's a must.
Mm.
And I feel like the conversation that we had with them at the end, they understood where we stood, and I think they were all right with it. It's the feeling I got anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least understanding anyhow. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like we were maybe a bit unprepared for the discussion that they were expecting to have going into the meeting. We didn't have any kind of information presented to us about what their intentions were, what they were wanting, just that they wanted to talk about the ownership of the building. I mean, as far as like the meeting room area, like I said, that's up to them if they want to use it for that. If they want to do some more improvements to them, I know their thoughts was they didn't want to invest a lot of money into the building if they didn't own it, which I guess is their prerogative if they want to or they don't want to. My understanding that, at least from, again, I don't know exactly what the plans are. We just kind of got the first earful of what they're kind of thinking about the other night. Mm-hmm. But it sounded like it was kind of more focused on the EMS side of things, which is really county stuff, not city stuff. We focus the split with the fire department, but the EMS stuff truly is the county side of things. But, and if they wish to go forward with something, I don't imagine that I would have any kind of an issue with agreeing with any kind of improvements they would want to make. If they wanted to budget some stuff for a couple of years and then do something, I mean, great, whatever they need to do there. The other thing on here was like the fire vehicles. I know there was kind of a question brought up about the vehicles and the county employees driving the city vehicles and where things kind of lay there. So I don't know what kind of further discussions we might need to have regarding the vehicles and ownership of the vehicles. I do know that when we kind of first signed this merger agreement, we kind of went into it knowing that there was probably going to have to be some things adjusted as things kind of get moving, and we kind of see how things go, see what's working, see what's not working. So maybe it's time to kind of reevaluate the merger and see what's working, what's not working, what we kind of need to get fixed, and what the best ways to try to accomplish that might be. You know, as far as like the ownership of the vehicles, I mean, if it were to turn into where we wanted to sign ownership over to the county, it would have to be at the very minimum, for me anyway, for the contract reads where if there's ever kind of a split in that merger, that whatever percentage of ownership we're giving up, we get back.
Mhm.
You know,
Right, exactly.
or do we need to look into a more permanent kind of a merger where it's really run by one entity and not two as it is now? But again, that I think that this might be good discussion items for if we feel like maybe now's the time to reevaluate where things are and what's working and what's not.
Yep.
If anybody else has any other comments regarding?
You know, if there's movement to do something with the vehicles, I do think it should be something in writing and not something just verbal. It should be a modification to the agreement, because then it becomes, then the lawyers can make sure there's we don't get crossways with the county or anything else, and that's not the intention.
Yeah.
Regarding the vehicles, it's just to make the operations run smoother. So, and that there be no questions. We haven't had any incident yet because of the employees driving the vehicles is not city employees. I don't want to have to test it out either, to make sure that that's okay. But I think titling the vehicles over to the county or the fire district or something, where there's some guarantee if the vehicles are replaced, that value. Jake had mentioned that previously with the agreement. I don't think it's completely stated in the agreement regarding the vehicles or enunciated, directly. So that's the only part that I'm saying it should have something in writing to that effect that both parties agree to, and that everybody understands what actually is happening. So.
Any other comments regarding the meeting the other night? Do you think, kind of looking at the merger and maybe getting some details from the fire department about what they think has worked well and what hasn't, or the fire district as far as how the contract is written, how things are flowing, to kind of reevaluate things and see if we need to make changes or improvements, is something you guys want to look into doing?
Yeah, I don't have any problem trying to look at things, make sure that everything is working the way they think it is and the way they want it. So
Sounds good. Yeah, because I think it's been working great, and I don't foresee any issue for it to not be working great for a long time into the future. So I think whatever we can do to clean things up and solidify things, I think would probably be in our best interest. But
sounds good.
Okay. Would it be okay to invite Fire Chief James to one of the meetings in August to have him come and explain some things?
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. We will get that done.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to B regarding the 2025 budget. We have Resolution 1640, which is a resolution of the City of Goodland regarding the intent to levy a property tax exceeding the RNR. Kent?
Trying to get to it. What we included in your packet is, the information regarding a proposed mill levy of 50.923.
Mhm.
The R&R rate is 49.374. Last year's rate, or this year, was approved last year, but it's this year's budget. 2024 was 50 mils, 1.54. That's really the main part of the budget that we need to decide about tonight. Or actually, the city commission needs to decide. It's not that anybody else, including me, gets involved in that. But we have to send to the county clerk, and that was included in your packet as well, the notice that is sent to her. And we also included all the recommended changes from what the proposed budget started with, that staff had put together. If there's any questions, concerns, comments, or complaints about any of those recommended changes, please let us know. I haven't heard anything to this point, one way or another. We made it to that point. Staff did put together a list of some additional cuts that could get us down to last year's rate, but it's really hard at this point.
Yeah.
So do have those if you want to discuss that way. And I also want to know if any of those recommended changes you don't want to occur with the budget. But need some direction from the commission, and then we have a proposed resolution which would say that we are going to have an R&R hearing. And it also sets within that resolution what our maximum rate will be for the R&R, which is revenue. What is it short for again, Mary?
Revenue neutral.
Right.
Neutral rate.
Neutral rate.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the two hard.
There's too many acronyms.
Too many acronyms. But that's the maximum amount it could be, is the 50.923. That does not mean that that's what the budget has to be passed with. That's just the maximum rate and what would be sent to all the residents, all the ratepayers within the city of Goodland. So that's what we are deciding tonight, what to send to the county clerk. First, whether we are having an R&R hearing, and then second, what is the maximum rate we're going to put on that document.
So you did have this document that had all the, discussed items that were pulled from budget. I assume a lot of these were pulled before they ever got to us to look at. So it's kind of hard to.
Yes, it is.
Now, is the rate that we're looking at the rate that it was last meeting when we were looking at the final budget?
No,
Okay.
it's a little bit less.
Okay.
We had a couple minor changes that lowered the rate. We had a personnel change that we're reorganizing as far as the assistant that was working in my office. That provided a little bit of relief because it's going to be organized to combine front office and building inspection instead of assisting me in building inspection. There was also a couple other minor changes that we located that were corrections, and it ended up a little bit less. So that was there was more than that. I can't list them off right off the front of my head at this point. I should have been prepared for that question.
Oh, answered pretty well, I thought. I guess my thoughts still kind of stem the way they were last meeting when we discussed it. You know, we're kind of back to kind of a bare minimum kind of a budget again. There's really not any excess spending, and there's really not much wiggle room to do much of anything other than hope there aren't even more extreme increases on things next year. Yeah, I do think that even with this budget, that later on throughout this year, I do hope we get a chance to look at utility rates and see where we are as far as what the rates are bringing in. As we saw going through this process, we're not bringing in enough utility funds to pay for utilities, you know, and that makes it hard on everything. So I imagine that we will probably end up having to make some increases there, which will hopefully help for the next budget cycle. But as far as this year, I feel pretty satisfied with the way things are. Like I said, it would be nice to have a little more expendable money. I feel like it's going to kind of maybe hamper. We've done a pretty good job of getting grants and getting some things going and some projects and have a lot of great things happening. That may end up being a little less come next year just because we may not have as many funds available to help cover our cost of grants and things of that nature. But I'm hoping that maybe by the next year things will kind of even out a little bit and maybe we can refocus on that a little more.
Yeah, as I have had a chance to look through these, I can't imagine that there's any other place to cut, and I don't expect our department heads to work any harder than they already have to find those cuts. I'm comfortable with submitting the notice for the R&R hearing, you know, at the 50.923.
Any other thoughts or comments from you guys out there? You have any opinions on where we sit?
One of these days it's gonna come down to, none of us like to hear that, but we might just have to raise the mill levy a little bit to get some of our accounts back up to where they need to be, instead of cutting and cutting and cutting. And, you know, we all like the services that the city provides. And if we want good streets and we want good sewer, water, electrical, parks and everything, it's the worst of two evils that we might have to just bite that bullet and raise the mill levy a little bit more than that.
Is that something you're wanting to look at for this budget?
I mean, this is with that extra 70,000 that you had to cut out to get down to this. I was talking at the budget, then plus, then 49 would be the extra 20 whatever for the revenue neutral.
We are down to 32,000, basically 33,000. But that,
And that's that position that you cut out and then
yeah,
a couple other little things.
but as staff continues to look at it, obviously we make little corrections and try to come up with the final number. What we've done so far, and Mary put it in the total, you know, we've ended up with almost $500,000 that we've taken out from what we first proposed. So some people may look at it and go, well, that's only 30,000 to last year's rate, not to the R&R rate. The R&R rate is still 80,000 away. But, we could, but it's really starting to impact specific things that will hurt the delivery of services. And, so that's where we're at.
You know, we're not like a regular business in town that provides labor and sells parts. We do sell electricity and water, but their bottom line stays the same because they can raise their labor rates and cover their costs.
Yeah.
And we're not like that, so it has to come from somewhere else. And I hate to see it, but I like the services that we as a city provide to our patrons.
Well, and then, you know, what the three things that the budget is built on as far as three main revenue sources is the property tax rate, sales tax collections, and utility fees. Now, there's a number of minor ones, but they don't equal any of those three. So if you don't, everybody complains about the property tax rate, and our businesses still have to do well in order for us to meet these sales tax collection targets. But then, you know, there's not another place for it to go. Utility rates, we are, you know, it's hard to make that justification because people are, you know, some folks have a real hard time paying the utility bills as it is. But, you know, the main question for this part of the budget really is about the property tax rate and what it generates. And are we doing the right things to help the community succeed as we go forward?
I think we just have to make sure that we play our part in all this, and that part is making sure that we have a safe city that's got good infrastructure and the services that we provide are top notch. And if we have a community that is taken care of, people are going to want to move here, and we'll make these decisions easier because we'll have a bigger tax base. So Midland is open for business, and we need to continue to do everything we can to make sure that people from out of town that come here know that that's true. So.
So I guess the questions we need answered, like I said, the two main questions are: one, do we want to move forward with assuming that we will exceed the R&R rate?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Do we think that the rate that's on the proposed resolution is the proper rate to move forward with?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. Somebody would want to make a motion on that.
We'll make a motion to approve Resolution 1640 regarding the revenue neutral rate and our intent to exceed it.
Motion by Commissioner Showalter,
Second.
second by Commissioner Myers. Any further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Redlin, Thompson.
Yes. Okay, moving on to C, the building official report. Zach, come on up.
So I did make it back over to the Grant Historical Residences and caught one of the residents that lived there, and they showed me the room that has the standing water. I was told there was mold in there, but it just looks like water stains. As to what's above the ceiling, I'm not sure. The light fixture that was closest to us has stripped out of the ceiling and is just hanging by one bracket at this point. I did send them official notice that it needed to be repaired, and if it is not repaired at that point, I will bring it back to you guys to set the resolutions and move forward with the process on getting it repaired. You can see the water stains on the tarp, so clearly there's been more water there at some point. Whether the buckets overflowed or it was before they put them there, I'm unsure, but there was standing water in the buckets as well.
And when did you send that notice out?
Would have been the middle of last week.
So I'm assuming you haven't heard a response from them yet. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully they're willing to come in and just get that taken care of.
The rest of the building that I was able to, gain access to that wasn't in somebody's apartment, I didn't see any other issues with water leaking, so I'm assuming it's just a small spot on the roof that needs repaired, and then obviously fixing what's underneath it that's been water damaged as well.
Yeah. I mean, it is they have turned it into a nice apartment building.
From the apartments that I've been in, they're actually really nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I appreciate you staying on top of this because this kind of damage is stuff that can affect the health of everybody that lives there. So it's important that we take care of that.
That is all I have for my report. Do you guys have any questions?
Is this the multi-purpose room?
This is one of the community rooms on the upstairs level.
yes.
So there are apartments actually below it,
Oh, okay.
which is one of my main concerns.
It will just
Other
keep
than-
working its way down. It will
Yeah.
find a way.
Right.
Yep.
We'll get there. Hang on. I think exactly.
Exactly.
Thanks, Zach.
Do you have anything else they wish to discuss?
I had a question, I guess, for the building inspector. I received a couple of phone calls about the hotel, the Oyo out there, and specifically complaints about the weeds. I didn't know if you had any contact with anybody out there or knew anything about that situation.
I did speak with the owner. I called him on the phone because the mailing address goes to the hotel and I knew he wouldn't receive the letter. He did not take care of the weeds, so I did mail out the letter. They will be getting mowed next week if it is not complete.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
That answers my question. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Let's move on to reports then, starting with our city manager, Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. Included in your packet is the manager memo, the police monthly activity report, the quarterly reports from the municipal court, as well as the building official for building permits. We also included in there the second quarter financial statement, which is published in the newspaper as well. We also included the dividend check that comes from EMC regarding insurance. And then I did have a question for you all. We had mentioned it, talked about it earlier, just wanted to confirm before we go ahead with preparations about hosting a community barbecue or community feed of some sort with the last Park and Play concert at Stever Park in August.
Well, I know I've enjoyed doing it, and I personally hope that we continue to do it as long as we can keep having these Park and Play concerts, which I also think have been great for the community in the last couple of years that they've been able to do those. So I, for one, am in favor of doing it again.
I so agree.
I don't remember exactly what the date of that was. Middle of August sometime.
August
Oh,
16th. Didn't have it on here.
Yeah.
And then the gun club lease, we had Melvin Crow come previously. We're going to have to do a renewal and a little bit of adjustment on the area described. So we'll just have the agreement. And he said he had the last renewal and was going to get that to City Hall here, and that hasn't happened as yet, so. I'll contact him again this week, and we'll work on it to get it here.
Okay.
And then the industrial park, project has started as far as the base grant project. Our city water department has also started working on the water main extension in the park. They started on the sewer line that's on the south side of the park. You know, the road splits off and goes on the north side. There's a sewer line on each side. They started on the south, and they thought where the starting point was going to just be a lamp hole and not a manhole. And it turned out to be a manhole and had a stub to serve the 21st Century Bean property out in reaches the sewer main. Rich from a few years ago had said that it was just a lamp hole, which is just basically an ending point so you can use some equipment to get into the sewer main at that point, not a full manhole. Well, it turns out to be a full manhole, so we will actually have a deduction on the project by a few $1,000s. But don't hold on to that. You know, you never know. As you start digging in the dirt, there might
We'll
be
take
something
any
that comes
dollar we
up.
can get, even if it's just for a little bit.
They didn't, however, Oldcastle had delivered all the sewer main bases for the north line, but they did not deliver yet the ones on the south main. So they're at a stopping point right now on the south sewer main. They've dug it out about a little over halfway of what it will end up going. But they need to get the sewer, the manhole set in order to extend any more pipe. They can dig it out, but that's not really an issue at this point. So they're supposed to get them this Friday, and then they will resume proceeding. But as quickly as they're moving, installing that shouldn't affect as far as their timeline. But they just have about a week break here until supposedly the manholes will arrive this Friday. But
Okay.
they've started and things were going pretty good, and there's still an entrance to 21st Century Bean property at this point. They did the sewer encasement across the street and got that done. But the first manhole past where they started is just on the other side of the street. So that's where the stopping point is at this point. And that's all I have.
Do you have any questions for our city manager tonight? All right, thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to commissioner reports, starting clear down here on my right with Commissioner Showalter.
Sure, I just want to thank Chief Earhart and his department. I had the opportunity to work with a couple of his officers last week on a case for the college, and I found them to be responsive, professional. They were very knowledgeable, and I appreciate the relationship that the college has with the police department. You guys are very, very easy to get along with, so thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Myers,
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Howard.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, and for the mayor's report, I have nothing more to add this evening. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Howard,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Showalter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.